Welcome back, artists. Hey, today we are going to cover our food forms that we created. We're going to use one of two materials. You will either be using celluclay, which is a type of paper mache. It's a little bit more like clay. Or we'll be using traditional paste with newspaper strips, which is more of a traditional paper mache type material. Depending on how you created your form and what you think is going to be easiest, you can choose. I'll have them set up at different tables. The celluclay tends to be very sticky and messy. It gets in your fingers. You can see how it's in my fingernails and under my fingers. So if you're more, icky about stuff on your hands, or like I usually will take off all my jewelry, you might want to use the paste. If you're using the paste, you're going to need newspaper strips. So what I like to do is start from the folded edge of the newspaper. You can put 3 or 4 together, but where it's folded in the middle, that's the best place to just tear those strips. And you can tear some strips just straight down, and they're usually pretty even if you tear it from the fold of the paper. So I'm going to start by covering my donut, and I will show you first how to do it using the paste. So what I like to do after I have torn my newspaper strips is then obviously separate them, because I only want to dip one strip at a time. So I use the whole paper, and I'm just going to wrap my donut, but I want to put it in the paste. It's kind of like when we did our plaster cast hands last year. You have to wipe the water or the paste off the newspaper, because you don't want it dripping, but you want it all wet. So you can see how wet and moist my strip is. And then you just lay it right across your form that you created. Since I did a donut, I want to go on the inside also and just wrap it and smooth it out as I do this, and then take my next strip and do the same thing. It's just a patient process. I kind of wipe my hands. The one thing I am going to ask is that you guys cover the table. So just make sure you have a layer of newspaper down on your table so that the paste doesn't get everywhere. And again, I'm just wrapping it around, and then I want to smooth it out. Because this is a donut, it doesn't have to be perfect, because donuts look kind of lumpy like cake. But I want to get the whole thing covered with at least one layer of newspaper. You can do up to 3 layers, just to give it a little bit more firm substance. And then we're going to let it dry. So what you're going to want to do after you're all done covering it is put it on one of the trays over by the painting center, like you can just grab, one of the food lids over there, put it on that, because if we put it on newspaper, it'll probably end up sticking to the newspaper. So you could do that. Just get then a piece of paper to write your name on and your teacher code here, and you're going to put it on the drying rack to dry. So that's one option, using the paste. I would probably use the paste if I had my form created out of a rougher thing, that like aluminum foil, or maybe just a box, or some kind of plastic container. Like if I used a plastic container or a foam cup, I might want to cover it with the this paper mache paste. It would be easier than the celluclay. All right, once you get it all covered, put it over on the drying rack. Now the celluclay, if you want to try the celluclay one, I'll take my ice cream ball. So the celluclay, I'm going to wipe my hands from the paste. When we clean up too, make sure you use the wet rags over in the red bin at the paint center. Get a wet rag to clean your hands with, and then dry it. We can't put this stuff down the drain because it'll clog it. So you're going to take some celluclay. I like to just kind of smooth out a little bit, a thin layer, and then put it on my form. And again, I'm smoothing it out, so I'm making it nice and smooth and thin, but I do want to cover all the newspaper. I want all that newspaper covered up. When the Celluclay dries, it will dry hard, so it will make a nice firm surface. That's why we want to cover all the newspaper, because if we still have newspaper showing, obviously the newspaper won't be a hard surface. So I can see a little newspaper here. I just want to make sure I get that covered. But as I work, I'm smoothing the Celluclay down so that it doesn't have a rough texture. It has more of a smooth texture. And you can just use your fingers to do that. You can actually get it really smooth. I don't mind the feel of the Celluclay on my fingers. I actually prefer to work with the Celluclay over the paste. I just think it's easier, but I've had a lot of experience with it. So I want you guys to explore and experiment, and you may decide that part of your sculpture needs to be covered one way and part the other way. That's fine too. I don't think they're going to mix very well, so I would avoid doing that. I would either choose one or the other and complete the whole sculpture using either Celluclay or the paste. When I get to a part where it's all covered and I need to turn it where there's the clay, I'm very carefully going to just hold it now with my hand here so that I can cover the other part. I've also had students do things like sometimes you could get like a toilet paper roll and set it on top, or you can just carefully hold it. I don't think it is that difficult. You won't mess up the other side. So again, just cover the whole thing. When you're done, you're going to do the same thing. The Celluclay you can actually put on a piece of paper. Just get a piece of paper out of the free draw center, write your name on it, and place that right on top of that free draw paper with your name, and then again put that over on the drying rack, and next week you'll be ready to paint. So this is how we're going to work. Nice thin layer of the Celluclay. Just cover your entire form, smooth it all out. Piece of free draw paper, write your name, teacher code. Now, when it comes time to clean your hands up, please do not wash your hands in the bathroom. We're going to take a rag, and you can wipe most of this off with the rag. Then you can get a cleaner rag and finish cleaning your hands. So they're mostly clean. All right, have fun, artists.